Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07 on this Wednesday morning, the 21st day of August. Thanks for tuning in to O'Connor and Company, where we're going to give you our full recap of last night's events at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Advisedly, because honestly, we want to start your day in a good way, and there was nothing uplifting or inspiring about what we heard last night from the corrupt senior leadership of the Democratic Party. But we'll do our best so that you can be up to speed on what happened. Also, at 6:35, Cal Thomas will be here. At 7:35, Chuck Thies on the latest corrupt scandals involving the District Council of Washington, the arrest of Trayon White. And then at 8:05, Matt Schlapp. Talk about that convention last night. It's Larry O'Connor once again with Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what do you do? I mean, we want to let you know what was done and said last night.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, we're talking about speeches from Barack and Michelle Obama, and they're just they are certainly polished and they give a fine presentation if you like that sort of thing. I don't. See, their message isn't for me. So what I see is a very well-spoken, angry person who doesn't like me, thinks my ideas are a threat to our country, and then he demonizes me by painting with very broad brushes and stereotypes against people like me because, well, we disagree politically, and therefore I must be destroyed and ruined. And then he lies with such great aplomb, and he's credited with this. I mean, all the commentary, oh, what a great orator. Well, it's easy to be a great orator when you're delivering a monologue of myths. And he never points out the actual and the reality of what he did to this country, what he did to foreign affairs, the fact that he empowered the Muslim Brotherhood, the fact that he funded the Islamic State of Iran. And there was one moment where he said, it's really easy to think that to be cynical and call the government irredeemably corrupt. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the guy who signed off on the FBI investigation of Donald Trump over Russian collusion when he personally had already been briefed month before by John Brennan. John Brennan, his CIA director, an evil, nasty human being, briefed him in July saying, hey, the Hillary campaign has created this Steele dossier. They're going to use it as a Oppo research vehicle against Trump, and it's going to claim that he's a Russian asset. Obama knew about that in July. And then in January, after Trump had been elected, he informed James Comey, his deputy attorney general, the vice president, Joe Biden, Susan Rice, at that point, I think she was a national security advisor. He said, yeah, go forward with this FBI investigation of the incoming president. And he put those wheels into motion. And then he lectures me saying, don't be so cynical, thinking that our government is irredeemably corrupt. He's the poster child for our irredeemably corrupt government. So listen, when you are a sociopath and you can stand there in a $10,000 suit after becoming a billionaire, a beautiful suit. They look great. Oh, they're polished and chiseled. After he's become a billionaire doing nothing but working in government, which also seems kind of irredeemably corrupt, too. Where do your billions come from when all you've done is have a government job your whole career until now? Don't stand up there and lecture me just because you can lie with aplomb like a sociopath. So, again, I go back to my dilemma. I'm torn. How much of this do we play, as we don't want to get people so riled up and angry over their Cheerios this morning?
Well, listen, we played Hillary Clinton, we played Joe Biden yesterday, so it's important that they hear how the Obamas are railing against Trump and how they are using the platitudes, the feels, and the vibes to get people to miss the fact that there is no beef in their burger. It's a nice looking burger. It's got lettuce. It's got romaine lettuce. It's got shredded carrots sprinkled on top. It looks really nice and sounds really good, and even smells nice, but there is no meat there. And frankly, everything they say you should not do is what they have done. To your point about the amount of money they make, I'm a capitalist. Make as much money as you can as long as you're not doing it in a corrupt way. And yet we hear them lecture us. And that is really my big takeaway. And I'll have some more. Takes it, but my big takeaway is that the two of them lectured us. They finger wagged at us as though we are like their daughters. They probably can't control their own daughters, but they lectured us like we're little kids, and as though they're the ones who know best.
Yeah.
And frankly, everything they said you should not do is what they have done.
Well, it's what they've always done. That's how it's always been. It's fine for me, but not for thee. You will be controlled.
Exactly.
We will put you in the socialist box. And listen, there is some beef on the burger. But it's Marxist beef is the problem. They're definitely selling some food to us. It's there. I want to start with this. Here's Michelle Obama, because I found that this is a big thing that you're seeing during this entire convention, and the media is echoing it too. They're so desperate to try to revive the Obama magic and instill it into Kamala Harris's DNA. And so listen to Michelle Obama attempting to do that, and then just think for a second and realize that these are the same people who were standing on that same stage promoting Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton before her. Yeah. And so what is the subtext here to what Michelle Obama is saying about how hope is now making a comeback? What is she saying about Hillary and Joe as she's saying this about Kamala?
Something wonderfully magical is in the air, isn't it? Yeah. You know, we're feeling it here in this arena, but it's spreading all across this country we love. A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. You know what I'm talking about. It's the contagious power of hope. The anticipation, the energy, the exhilaration of once again being on the cusp of a brighter day. The chance to vanquish the demons of fear, division, and hate that have consumed us and continue pursuing the unfinished promise of this great nation, the dream that our parents and grandparents fought and died and sacrificed for. America, hope is making a comeback.
Patrice, they're the incumbent party. They're the one. I mean, this is
they are.
They're running for four more years. Should someone point this out to them?
No, they want you to forget. They want you to think that you have forgotten who is currently sitting in office, who is currently running for president, who is also seated in office and has frankly been the tie-breaking vote for all of the major quote-unquote achievements legislation of those who are sitting in office. So listen, that's why I said that there's no meat here. That's why I said that this is about vibes and feelings, and it looks good and it smells good and it makes you feel good. It's purely emotion and zero, I won't say intellect, but zero rationality.
No substance. All right. Well, by the way, two big takeaways there, though. Michelle Obama currently thinks our country is great and she loves it. So that's
a turnaround.
Sure. I mean, we don't always hear that from Michelle Obama. All right. A little bit more on last night's festivities in Chicago. First, though, it's 5:15.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Sorry about that. 60 degrees, not 68 degrees. But of course, you know that. You can just look at your dashboard of your car. It's 5:17 now as we give you a recap, advisedly, about last night's performance. This was another key takeaway from Michelle Obama's speech. By the way, again, just like Joe Biden last night, or excuse me, Monday night, you had Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, both dressed in very somber-looking, dark black outfits, which is an
interesting. Hers was navy.
It's an it was very dark. Let's call it navy. All right, he was in a dark suit, but it was, and Emhoff as well. It's a dark background. They are in dark suits. Biden, the same thing. It's a somber looking stage, I think, in my opinion. It's coming across very dark in terms of the palette and in terms of the lighting for the audience. I don't know if that's a conscious choice or if that's just the mood that they're in right now.
I don't know. I mean, it was the death of Joe Biden's political career, so maybe they're mourning.
That's true. I mean, Joe Biden did deliver his own
that
eulogy.
could be it.
All right, here's Michelle Obama. This was also quite a statement to make. Again, these are wealthy human beings who stand up there and demand that you don't work to acquire wealth yourself. The whole idea here is that you need to give and sacrifice and make sacrifices on behalf of the common good, and don't worry about your future because the government will take care of that future as you sacrifice on behalf of that government. That's the message being sent here, and at the same time demonizing those who actually want to work hard and acquire wealth as the fruits of their labor.
You see, my mom, in her steady, quiet way, lived out that striving sense of hope every single day of her life. She believed that all children, all people have value, that anyone can succeed if given the opportunity. She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
Now, this is a woman, again, they are billionaires after serving in government their entire lives. She famously said that she had student loan debt still when she became First Lady. So, boy, that's quite a turnaround. Talk about America being a great country. In 16 years, you go from having student loan debt to being a billionaire after working in government your entire life. You now have 3 houses and you and make all the money. And she's now lecturing. My parents were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed. But, of course, the question is who's to determine what someone needs or not? And in Michelle and Barack Obama's world, it's the government, people that you elect, and that people who get hired to work for the government permanently for the rest of their lives. You know, the same people who investigate you over Russian collusion. But this is the height of irony. Michelle Obama makes $750,000 for a 1-hour speech. And she says her folks are, her parents were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
I mean, listen, it's rich. It's rich that Michelle Obama is, and Barack Obama did it too. They're resting on their humble beginnings and humble family life from their childhood to then position themselves as one of you, one of us. I don't deny your wealth. It is great if you're able to build a successful career, hopefully not off the backs of politics and leveraging your time in office to do so. I think they need to embrace it, but then they would come across as totally out of touch.
When you say embrace it, you mean be truthful. Yeah, be truthful about who you are.
Yeah, be truthful. I'm rich. I want to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
I am one, and here's how you can do it too. That's if they want. That's kind of the message. And don't denigrate other billionaires or other millionaires or frankly other people who live in the DMV who with 2 incomes who make over 6 figures. They shouldn't be demonized either for success or penalized by the IRS. That's what they should say.
The language that they would use, of course, in that context would be that they have been fortunate. They're lucky. They're fortunate. They've been on the no. So why take that away? I love it when she talks about her parents and how her dad worked multiple jobs and was up nights while she was sleeping so that she could have a better life. And she said that like it's a problem. That's a wonderful thing, that our country allows a dad to be able to work his tail off so his daughter can learn good work ethics and make smart choices so that they can have a better life. Why does she want to rob that dignity from other people? They also preyed on the race card, as the Obamas always have their entire political career. But, of course, they did it in a way that appears as though they're not playing on the race card. Here, listen.
Limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of 2 hard-working, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black. Wait. I want want to know.
Now, first of all, Ray, she's talking about Donald Trump there, but of course, by extrapolation, it's all people who support Donald Trump and all Republicans. But this is the whole thing. He didn't like us because we happen to be black. It robs us of our intellectual abilities to disagree with your policies and your philosophy on life by saying, oh, you just disagree with me because I'm black. You just don't like me because I'm black. No, I don't like you because you've ruined our country, and your policies ruin our country and are antithetical to what our country stands for. By immediately saying, well, the only reason you must not like me is because I'm black, or you oppose me is because I'm black, injecting racism on your opponent's motives is actually a form of racism in and of itself. And then she doubles down.
Who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs?
All right. Listen, there's much more here that we're going to lay out for you. As you can hear, it's the kind of thing that will get your blood boiling early in the morning. So we're gonna try to temper as much as we can for you as you start your day, because we do want you to be in a good mood today, because it's a beautiful day that the Lord has made for us, and we're going to make the most of it.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
All right, it's 5:37 WMAL. O'Connor and Company, good morning to all. Let me give you a quick rundown. At 6:35, we'll have Cal Thomas as usual. 7:35, Chuck Thies. And 8:05, Matt Schlapp is going to be responding to the Democratic Convention. You're listening to Larry O'Connor alongside me, Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning, Patrice. Let's get at it.
All right. So yesterday, it's probably an undercovered story, but if you see Riley Gaines or if you follow her on social media, you've probably seen that there was a big Supreme Court decision regarding Title IX. This is, as folks know, Title IX created women's sports, funded it, and actually a host of other provisions that make room for women-only spaces, rights, etc. And so on Friday, the U.S. Supreme Court decided to block the Biden administration from implementing the new Title IX regulations that, we've covered it a lot here, but it would really erase a lot of these women-only provisions, protections, spaces, and has just rewritten Title IX. And so, what is it? I think 18 or 19 states, 26 states sued the Biden administration. You can guess which states those were, to say, no, these Title IX rewrites are illegal. They are wrong from a merit perspective. And the Supreme Court, in a pretty much sweeping unanimous decision, said, yeah, actually, this the government cannot go forward with these Title IX changes in these 26 states that have sued the government. So, and again, 9 justices agreed, which includes the 3 very liberal justices on the court. So this is a big deal. This is a big court decision.
It's huge, and a huge victory for so many of the organizations, including your partner organization, Patrice, Independent Women's Forum, who we have such great admiration for jumping on this issue and doing it the right way and putting this hold on it. This is an enormous decision, especially the fact that it is unanimous. And kudos to Jason Miyares, the Attorney General of Virginia, as one of those attorneys general who led the charge on this. This is absolutely, and listen, this is the temporary decision. They're gonna stop it from going into action with this temporary injunction, and then if it plays out. It will only play out, by the way, if the current administration is reelected through Kamala Harris. If Donald Trump becomes president, then this thing goes away permanently until some other president wants to redefine what a woman is. But if it were to go through, it will absolutely be soundly rejected across the board, because this is a law that was passed in 1972 with the very specific understanding that you're making equal opportunities for women in men's education, and that there could be no discrimination at any facet of education based on sex. And it was like, 3 paragraphs long. Seriously, that's all Title IX was. for the Biden administration through Merrick Garland and through their corrupt education department and Health and Human Services department to rewrite Title IX into this gargantuan redefinition of every societal and cultural norm. You can't do that. And I'm sorry to bring it back to Barack Obama in this thing. It's very cynical to say that government is irredeemably corrupt. This is exactly what we're talking about. Where can anybody name one person who rewrote Title IX? Do we have any? No. These are bureaucrats who have been appointed and put into power to wield this power that would reshape our lives as we know it and in my opinion, put young women in danger on a daily basis. And you don't even know who they are, and they can't be fired. And you didn't elect them, and they're accountable to no one. And thank God we still have some level of checks and balances here so the Supreme Court can step in. But this is exactly what that, irredeemably corrupt government will do when given the power and when put in place, as the Biden-Harris administration has done.
Well, and let's think about, from a big picture, how the Biden-Harris administration has operated. What they could not get done through Congress, through bipartisan legislation, and because they don't have a majority in both houses, partisan legislation, they have used the power of the pen, whether it is executive power through President Biden or the administrative state through these agencies. And so this is the Supreme Court. Let's not forget that President Trump was able to nominate, 2 justices?
Yep.
2 to the Supreme Court that shifted or 3.
3.
2, right? 2.
Trump?
3, sorry.
Trump had 3.
Trump had 3, thank you, but shifted the power not just to conservatives versus liberals, but to respect for the Constitution versus those who want to manipulate the Constitution to be whatever the public will is at the time of some, the public will of some. And so this Title IX rewrite by the Biden administration was wrong and illegal. And the court is saying, no, it's not going to go into place at the beginning of August. And in at least for the 24 states that filed suit against it, and the courts will continue to decide what goes on moving forward. So, this is how a Biden-Harris-Walz administration is going to be. It probably even more on steroids.
That's
Gender ideology on steroids.
100% on steroids because, they've already telegraphed that they want to. What do they want to do next? They want to change the Supreme Court. They're calling them reforms. What they want to do is completely bastardize the Supreme Court as we know it so that they can usher something like this through ideologically. They want to change the Supreme Court to reflect their ideology and to be able to just rubber stamp their policies. It's one of the last bulwarks left against the march toward Marxism and completely re-upending what America is and always has been. This election couldn't be more important. It's 5:43. Meanwhile, the world appears to be moving closer and closer to a major military conflict, as we've seen.
Oh, boy.
We've gone 4 years after relative peace and prosperity worldwide with the ending of Americans involved in armed conflicts to peace accords between Arab nations and Israel and Europe marching toward independence from Russia for oil and gas. Well, in 3.5 years, all of those things have been upended. We've got active war in the Middle East, we've got war in Eastern Europe, and we've got continued threats on the Pacific Rim. And now there's this. The New York Post headline yesterday, Biden secretly orders U.S. to prepare for nuclear threats from China, Russia, and North Korea.
Oh, my goodness. Was this between when he was heading back from the speaking to the beach?
No, this was a few months ago, apparently.
Oh, wow.
New York Post, Biden made the shift in March because the Pentagon believes China's nuclear arsenal will rival the U.S. and Russia, according to the New York Times. New strategy is called the Nuclear Employment Guidance and also readies the U.S. for a possible coordinated threat between China, Russia, and North Korea. In a pair of recent speeches, 2 senior administration officials have hinted at the growing Chinese nuclear threat. The president recently issued updated nuclear weapons employment guidance to account for multiple nuclear-armed adversaries and, in particular, the significant increase in the size of diversity of China's nuclear arsenal, said Vipin Narang this month when he was still the acting assistant secretary of defense of space policy. Now, part of me thinks, well, shouldn't we have always sort of had a military posture of anticipation of a possible nuclear threat from countries like China, Russia, and North Korea. And I'm sure that there have always been some level of contingency plans in place. That's what you want your Pentagon to be doing. But the fact that this classified plan, by the way, why do we know about this? Who's leaking this? Shifting America's nuclear strategy to focus on China as a nuclear threat. Apparently that is a new development. And it's all happened because, well, our international footing and America's strength abroad has been undermined daily by Joe Biden, by one of the weakest commanders in chief that we've ever had.
You know, this is interesting. So this report is saying U.S. officials believe China's nuclear force would grow to about 1,000 by 2030. So that's just 6 years away, and 1,500 by 2035. That said, the U.S. has more than 5,200 nuclear warheads, so 5 times as many, and Russia has a cache of more than 5,800. So while it's alarming that China is absolutely gaining on the United States and Russia, they have a little bit of time we have time to either slow their development or ramp up ours. I just wonder if there's the will on the part of a potential Biden-Harris-Walz administration to actually, take this seriously, because obviously the Biden administration doesn't seem to be doing too much about it.
Well, he's doing something. You mentioned vacations. And yes, after he gave his eulogy at the convention in Chicago, he hopped on Air Force One and flew to California for vacation because, it's been a tough time going for him.
Few weeks, right?
Yep. They're going to be spending a week in California at an 8,000-acre ranch owned by a major multi-millionaire Democrat donor, Santa Ynez, California. This is a 8,000-acre ranch owned by Joe Kiani, according to local media. Kiani has been a major donor to Biden's campaign and a friend of the family. Hunter Biden paid a visit to the $50 million vineyard property last year. It's called the Kiani Preserve, 8,000 acres. It has its own private vineyard, donkeys, and a cattle herd. By the way, they produce Shiraz and Cabernet Sauvignon, if you're interested.
Apparently, I was just curious about this Kiani guy. He seems to, he's the founder and CEO of Massimo, an engineer in oximetry technologies. I'm not sure what that is all about, but he's rich and he's a big Democratic bundler, and he's a friend of the Bidens. That tells is that who Michelle Obama was referring to when she said you should trust people who take more than they need?
Yeah, I think that's what he and Joe need, I guess, and Hunter and Jill. They need an 8,000-acre ranch with its own private vineyard and private cattle herd, and that's exactly who Michelle's talking about. It's 5:53.